I'll take a chair. You can give me a chair. All right. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد. Well, welcome to the workshop on the laws of fasting. We thought it would be interesting and important that we have a refresher. Alhamdulillah, we've been fasting for a long time now, so we know the rules of it and to an extent. But there are some questions that are asked repeatedly every year. And also when it comes to the other aspects of fasting, it is always a good refresher that we understand the essence of fasting. We understand the purpose, maqsad, philosophy of fasting. While we will discuss some rules as well, but we will focus initially on the essence and the philosophy of fasting so that when we enter into this month of Ramadan, inshallah, we are equipped with the sense that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this an obligation upon us, what are the benefits that we can derive from it, and what are the etiquettes of fasting, all of those things, inshallah. And hopefully I can go through these slides in 45 minutes. But in the middle of these slides, it's not like I want it to be, monotonous where I'll just keep on talking, a one-way traffic. No, we can keep it interactive. And at any time you have a question, you want to ask something, please interject and go ahead and ask. So we'll keep it, just a casual conversation as we go along. I recited this verse from ayat number 183 from Surah Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in this ayat, and then the consecutive ayat afterwards, 185 as well, talks about the concept of fasting. It says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O those who believe, fasting indeed has been made obligatory upon you. Kutiba gives the notion of prescribed, and this prescription is wajib. So wherever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word kataba or kutiba, it reflects on the wujub of that amal. And hence it says it's been made wajib upon you the way it was made obligatory upon those who lived before you. So why mention that those who lived before you? The sense is given that you're not the first ones fasting. Don't consider that this is the first time someone is being prescribed to fast, this difficult ibadat, and no one has ever done. If you know that some people in the past have done this before, it doesn't make it to be that much special. That you are, for example, someone is special. So we find in the previous scriptures as well, the Gospel and the Old Testament and the New Testament, where the discussion of fast has appeared in different shape and form. Well, let's get right into it. First, foremost thing that I want to talk about the characteristics and the advantages of fasting in the holy month of Ramadan. Here, primarily the objective that I want to undertake is why we must fast, number one. We need to answer that question. And at the same time, what are some traits of this month of Ramadan and the traits of this fast itself? And therefore, the traits, as are explained, are that it is solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Well, always we make our niyat to be what? Qurbatan ilallah. That qurbatan ilallah niyat is where we get the concept of anything to be done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then one of the other advantages of fasting is that it's proven benefits. Why do you fast? Because it's proven to be beneficial. the benefits that you can derive from it. So the ayat of Quran, Surah Baqarah 184, as I said, 183, 184, 185, these consecutive ayat talk about the concept of fasting. So one of the reasons that it mentions is أَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, right? If you were to fast, this is خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It is better for you. إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. If you only knew. Meaning the word khair that is being used. Similarly, when we use the word khair in hayya ala khairil amal, that is an ibadat, that is salat, which is khairul amal, best of the ibadat. Regarding fast also, Surah Baqarah states very clearly that fasting is khair for you. So there's khair in it, there's benefit in it, hence we go ahead and fast. Then it talks about the continuous worship. This is that special ibadat. When you pray for 5 minutes, and then you get along with something else. Other ibadat that you do for time being, and then you get over with. The duration of fast is so long that in between which comes sometimes sleeping, right? You get to sleep during it doesn't say anywhere that when you're fasting, you have to remain vigil. You have to remain awake. It doesn't say anywhere. Yeah, when you're praying, you have to remain awake. You cannot fall asleep when you're praying. Your salat will be batil, because when you sleep, your wudu is gone, and hence the salat is broken. But when you're fasting, nobody's stopping you from sleeping. But the continuous benefit that you reap from it, even when you're sleeping. The famous riwayat from the Prophet who said that وَأَنفَاسُكُمْ فِيهِ تَسْبِيهِ وَنَوْمُكُمْ فِيهِ إِبَادَةً. Your breaths in this month are glorification of Allah, and your naum, your sleep, is ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then it says, answered supplication. This is a time when the dua is accepted. Amongst the times when dua is accepted, this is where the hadith mentions arba'u da'awatin la turaddu. There are 4 du'as which are never turned down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are them? Da'watul walide li waladihi. When a father prays for his son. Now there's a falsafa behind it. Why? In one line, because when a father prays for his son, it's absolutely with khulus and sincerity. There's no hidden agenda behind this dua when a father is making for the son. Da'watul mazlum ala zalimihi. When a mazlum makes a cry and a dua against the zalim, the one who's oppressing him. Da'watul mu'tamar hatta yarja'a. The da'wat and the dua of someone doing umrah or hajj until they come back. Duration of it, their dua is accepted. And da'watul sa'im hatta yuftar. Dua of a person fasting until they break their fast. So if it's an 8-hour fast, if it's hopefully it's an 8-hour fast. If it's a 10-hour fast, it's a 12-hour fast, a 13, the longer it is, the longer you have this opportunity where your dua is accepted. So that is another characteristic of this fast. Then this fast is compared to patience, right? The ayat of Quran which says, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ is talking about the willpower and the patience that it delivers. Give me 1 second, let me just change this. So fasting is compared to, in other words, patience, right? Patience is another name for fasting. Many have translated this ayah that seek assistance from sabr. Sabr is fasting because it's alongside with salat. What goes with salat? Salat and saum, they go hand in hand. So that's the reason this is considered to be fasting. Then it's a barrier from fire. So that is another advantage. Saumu shahr Ramadan junnatun minan nar. It is a shield that becomes separ from the fire of Jahannam. It's a gate of paradise reserved for those who fast. There are many gates and abwab for the entry into Jannat. And there's a gate that is reserved only for those who fast. So here, there's another incentive for those who, sometimes are finding ways not to fast, for example. The revelation of the books, divine books were revealed. That is one of the characteristics of the month of Ramadan. Prophet says, "Unzilat suhuf Ibrahim fi awwal laylatin min shahr Ramadan." The suhuf, the scriptures of Hazrat Ibrahim were revealed on the first nights of the month of Ramadan. Unzilat Tawrat lisittan madina min shahr Ramadan. Tawrat was revealed on the sixth night, or the 6 days had passed when it was revealed in the month of Ramadan. Injil lithalasa ashara, 13th day, for example. Zabur, 18 days after Ramadan. And of course, we know about Quran, the 3 layali al-qadr that we have, either the 19th or 21st or the 23rd, and more emphasis on the 23rd. So one of these nights, or in fact all the odd nights in the last 10 days, considered to be the Laylatul Qadr. So that's a trait of this month of Ramadan. Why this month is so special, not just of nuzul of Quran, but also nuzul of all of these other scriptures. Yes?
Aside from the last one, do the other benefits of fasting apply to like mustahab fast as well, or just for fasting Ramadan?
Yeah. So this previous ayat was talking about Sawm shahr Ramadan Junnatum minan nar. Number 6. Number 6 is only for the month of Ramadan, the wajib fast that you offer in the month of Ramadan. Because of the time. Sometimes you do certain things in off-peak. I can't think of a good example. For example, you go for ziyarat around Arba'in time, and then you go for ziyarat in the month of, for example, I don't know, Shawwal, right? So you see that the izdiham, and the more the people are over there, there's extra emphasis on the ziyarat, or recommended by the Ma'asumeen to do the ziyarat of Imam Hussein on the day of Arafah, right? The ziyarat of Arafah is highly recommended by Ma'asumeen. Allah looks at the zayar of Hussein on the day of Arafah before he looks at his zayar in Mecca on the day of Arafah. So highly recommended. So certain things, when they're done on certain days, it has more value. So definitely the ziyarat on Arafah is superior to the ziyarat in the month of Shawwal. I'm not picking on the month of Shawwal, but any other month, for example. The ziyarat is superior. Similarly, fast in the month of Ramadan is superior than fasting at any other time. But yes, wajib fast is what is being referred to in some of these riwayat, but it would not be decreasing anything from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if it expanded to even mustahab fast.
So like the continuous worship one, like would that be
Yeah. That would be any fast. So as I said, some of these are specific to Ramadan. Some of them could be extended to others as well. And lastly, the nights of destiny. Every definitive matter is resolved on it. Inna anzalna fi laylatil mubarakah inna kunna mundirin fiha yufraqu kullu amrin hakim. So the night of destiny is there. Every important matter is decided. These are the ayat of Surah Dukhan. Wisdom of legislating the fast. Now, of course, you and I can only speculate. The wisdom, real wisdom behind it, the one who revealed this religion, the one who sent these wajibat, he knows, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or whomever he trusted with the reasons behind why some of these things are made obligatory, only they know. And of course, they are the messengers and Ahlul Bayt, the pure successors. So from the kalam of Ma'asumeen and the ayat of Quran, these are some of the wisdoms that we can derive of fasting. Number 1, strengthening one's piety. La'allakum. So the ayat that we recited in the beginning concludes with what? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Fasting is prescribed so that you may become muttaqi. Ensuring sincerity. Amirul Mu'mineen said, فَرَوَ اللَّهُ الصِّيَامِ ابْتِلَاءً لِإِخْلَاصِ الْخَلْقِ. So that the sincerity, I've said this before and I've heard it from scholars as well. Even my teacher used to say this, that you can show off. There's some seats over here empty if you want to come and sit. There's some. If you want to show off any other amal, probably can. of fasting, even if you tell people that you're fasting, of course, month of Ramadan is already understood, right? Month of Ramadan is already understood. Everybody's fasting. If you're Muslim, you're fasting. You don't have any udhr. We mentioned that in Jummah as well. But fasting, because you're already suffering, depriving yourself from food and all that stuff that is normally halal for you, there's really no need for me to show off. You show off when, you're not feeling the pain of it. Someone who's working in the heat just to show off, no, that's not something which you show off. You show off something where you're sitting nicely and comfortably, and that's where you get to show off, for example. But when you're struggling and you're hurting, and that's why, it wasn't part of it. Person came to fifth Imam, I believe. Imam was working during the daytime in a farm. And then he taunted Imam by saying, look, what would Allah say if He took your life right now, that in this heat, you are killing yourself and you're working in the middle of this desert, in the middle of this heat? Imam said, well, Allah, if I died right now, I would be considered shaheed, because I'm trying to earn halal for my family. Right? So there's no show off when it comes to fasting. That's why Lady Fatma also said, وَالصِّيَامُ تَثْبِيتًا لِلْإِخْلَاصِ. Right? Always the concept of khulus and sincerity is associated with fasting. Reminder to be grateful. The ayat of Quran, ayat number 183, towards the end says what? أَلَا مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. This is probably 185. I wrote it wrong maybe. 183 was لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. 185 is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. So that you may be grateful. Why Allah made this to be wajib upon us? So you may thank Him. It's a great honor for you to fast. Therefore, whenever a ni'mat is given to you, you do what? Shukr ni'mat. And that's what it is. Encouraging empathy. What does fast do? Which prayer may not accomplish. Which other acts of worship may not accomplish. You get to feel firsthand what those who are less fortunate in the world go through on a regular basis. You and I, with our will, refrain from eating and drinking. There are a lot of people in the world going through famine. They don't have any choice. They go through regular hunger and they go through regular thirst. So that's the reason you start encouraging empathy in you. It says from our 11th Imam, لِمَا فُرِدَ الصَّوْمِ. Why Psalm is wajib? He said, لِيَجِدَ الْغَنِي مَسَّ الْجُوعِ فَيَرْحَمُ الْفَقِيرِ. So that the rich may feel the difficulty of hunger, and therefore from this will come about what? Rahmat, or mercy for those who are fuqara. So, wisdom behind the legislation of fasting and its benefits could be piety, could be ikhlas, could be shukr, and could be empathy. 4 things could be. And of course, there's a longer list. Imams and Masumin have mentioned a great deal in their riwayat. I only chose 3 or 4 riwayat for you. There are many other aspects of the philosophy and the benefits of legislating this. All right, etiquettes, that is important as well. When we perform different things, sometimes we perform, you can grade it, right? Just like you grade someone's behavior in a class when you're teaching students, when you're going through, and you say, well, you got 20 kids, and then you grade them based what they earn in their test. That's one thing. And then you grade them according to their akhlaq and etiquettes, right? There might be a child who may not have done great in, academically, but has displayed great akhlaq, right? And then there might be a child who's aced the test, but the akhlaq is the worst of the akhlaq, right? So etiquettes of fasting. We know how to fast, but how to properly fast. Concealing the recommended or mustahab fast from others except if asked about it. That is one of the etiquettes. Don't go around talking and, bragging that I'm fasting, by the way. I've been fasting for the last whole week. I fast the whole month of Rajab and Shaban too. Throw it all in there, right? So one of the, that is the true definition of the hadith, which says, what is zuhud, asceticism? It says concealing it. Riwayat, if I can remember, Afzalu zuhud, ikhfa'u zuhud. The best of asceticism is concealing your, if you are ascetic, you are zahid, you don't have to write it on your forehead, walking around with the label. Taking a nap, right? You say, well, taking a nap, it's one of the etiquettes? Yeah. Don't forget to take a nap. Because even when you take a nap while you're fasting, it is a continuous ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not like, okay, well, I'm going to miss work or I'm going to miss. No, it's not saying that. You have plenty of time. But unnecessarily, when you're tired and you should take a quick nap and you can, time permits you, work permits you, then it is actually one of the etiquettes of fast to go ahead and take a short nap. Now, nap should not be 5-6 hours long. Quick nap, short nap. Why? Because you should take naps because God feeds the fasting person and pours water for him as a relief from hunger and thirst in his sleep. That is one of the etiquettes, reason why you should take a nap while you're fasting. Providing iftar for a fasting believer, even if it's something small like a date, right? That khutbah of Rasulullah when he mentioned, provide, and someone said, oh Rasulullah, we have barely enough for ourselves. We're not very affluent. You know us already. And so Rasulullah said, well, I'm not saying you break your bank. Even, one sip of water, even if it's, one date, that would be enough. Eating pre-dawn meal, suhoor, or something before the time of Fajr. Sometimes people like to skip it. Who wants to get up early in the morning just to get something to? I hear that a lot. A lot of people fast, especially during the months of Shaban and Rajab when they fast. Bagair sahri ke roza. We're fasting without sahri. Because, you have to get up 4:30 in the morning to prepare something. Just forget about it. It's a short. So, okay, if you can handle it, that's fine. But this is one of the etiquettes of it. That you wake up in the morning, and more than likely there must be a wisdom behind eating that early in the morning. I remember one of my relatives, he lived in an apartment, and he said during Ramadan, his neighbor asked me, why do you guys get up so early? And then we can smell, you're cooking something, you cook 4 in the morning. So he explained to him that it's the month of Ramadan. So we get up early in the morning and we eat a little bit and then we don't eat all day long. He said, that's not good for your health. You shouldn't be doing that. That's not good for your health. I said, well, what can I tell you if it's good for my health or not? But that's what we do. Reciting these special supplications when breaking the fast, that we have come to know and we have memorized. Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftartu wa alayka tawakkaltu. And even this is in the singular form. Allahumma laka sumna, that is in the plural form. That, oh Allah, we have fasted. When you say Allahumma laka sumtu, meaning I have fasted. You say Allahumma laka sumna, we have fasted. There's no difference. It's not a Shia Sunni thing. It's just one is singular, one is plural. We are accustomed to reading Allahumma laka sumtu wa ala rizqika aftartu wa alayka tawakkaltu. That oh Allah, I fasted for you. Laka sumtu wa alayka wa ala rizqika aftartu, and with your rizq I have broken my fast. Wa alayka tawakkaltu, and upon you I do tawakkul. So these are etiquettes of fasting. Performing Maghrib at its prescribed time before breaking the fast. That's something which we do over here. We come and we pray, and then we go ahead and break our fast. It's not because we are trying to deprive you of food or anything. This is recommended. But if you can't handle it, the water is available outside. The dates are available outside. You can go ahead and break your fast before Azan is over, for example. If it's that much, you can. But the etiquettes mentioned in the Kalam of Masumin is you pray first Maghrib and then you go ahead and break your fast. Again, none of this is wajib, right? None of this is wajib. Breaking the fast with lukewarm water and dates. If a person breaks their fast with lukewarm water, it purifies their liver, washes away the sins from the heart, strengthens the sight and the pupils. I don't know. This is mentioned in Rawayat, and therefore, we say, well, sam'an wa ta'atan, as all the other things from the Ma'asumin is true, this is also true from the Masumin. So we're gonna break. Some people break it with salt as well, but this is dates. Tamr is something which Rasulullah used to do, Masumin used to do. And of course, don't try to drink cold water. Even your parents will tell you, young children, they want to drink cold. No, don't drink cold water in empty stomach. Lukewarm water is probably better, and it has all these other physical as well as spiritual benefits associated with it. Being diligent in observing moral virtues and refraining from vices, and spending the nights, the holy month, in worship, prayers, remembrance of God, reciting the Quran. Yeah. These are the etiquettes. That's why some of these things, we have actually made it obligatory upon us. For example, the last one, where it says, right here, reciting the Quran. In subcontinent culture, India, Pakistan, it is considered as if that when you start Quran in the month of Ramadan, you must finish Quran in the month of Ramadan. No such thing. It's good if you do so, but it's not wajib. Mashallah, you do once or twice or 3 times, as many times as you can, because that is recommended. So you're doing a good thing by reciting Quran. But it is wajib for you to finish? No. That's a self-imposed obligation that people have. All right, these were the etiquettes. Now we get to the actual fiqh and the ahkam of fasting, maybe in a couple of slides. Any questions, you can stop me. If you have any comments, Bismillah, more than welcome to hear what you have to say. So, of course, we have the wajib fast, we have the haram, yes, we have haram fast, mustahab, and we have the makruh, detested ones, right? When it comes to these wajib fast, of course, the month of Ramadan is obligatory. Qaza fast by those that were missed lawfully. Kafara fast, if you broke a fast, not only that you have to make up the qaza, but you have to pay the kafara as well. What is the kafara? To fast for 2 months. And of course, to feed 60 people, that's the one that people usually choose as the kafara, because if you can't fast one day, how are you going to fast for 60 days, right? But that is also obligatory upon you. Istijari fast, qaza and kafara fast, one is paid to perform. So a lot of time, this cannot be done, of course, during one's lifetime, right? No ibadat can be relegated to someone else to do on your behalf, except Hajj, right? No other ibadat can be done while you're alive, let me just put it that way. But every ibadat can be relegated to someone else after your demise. So after a person leaves this world, you can hire someone. For example, the fast of a deceased father is wajib on the oldest son, right? So the oldest son has difficulty fasting his own, making up his own qaza. Now he's going to fast for a missed fast of his father, and mashallah, the father also missed quite a few fasts for that matter. So what you can do, you can hire someone to go ahead and offer them money in lieu of this fast. There are many people in Pakistan and Iran as well, in many madaris, and there are students who fast, and they get paid for that. One of the maraje of the contemporary times, Ayatollah Marashi Najafi, was known for doing this istijari fast, that he used to keep fast on behalf of others, and by which they will pay him. That was one of the ways of him earning some money, and through that money he went ahead and bought all these books that he left behind, manuscripts, 250,000 books that you find in that museum. That is, of course, used to be the place of his residence. Fasting on the third day of the period of i'tikaf. So when you do i'tikaf cannot be done without fasting. You have to fast. So if you're fasting, the third day of i'tikaf becomes wajib. You cannot leave the masjid. And third day of the i'tikaf, it is also obligatory to fast. The first 2 days, you can break your i'tikaf, you can break the fast, if it's mustahab, for example. But the third day becomes wajib. So that's why it's mentioned there. Fasting in place of sacrifice required, if some people in Hajj are unable to afford the sacrifice. So Quran says, if you can't, then you go ahead and fast for 3 days. Or 7 days and then 3 days, and it is combined, 10 days in lieu of that sacrifice. Of course, you'll never come across that. Fasts that have become wajib by virtue of nadr. So you make a nadr that if so-and-so things becomes clear for me, or if I achieve so-and-so thing, then by God, I will go ahead and fast. You say, by God, I'm going to fast. And if you specify a day, then you have to fast on that particular day. The qada fast of the father whose responsibility falls on the eldest son. Now, haram fast. What are the haram fasts? Well, on the two Eids, right? Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, fasting based on a sinful nadhr. You made a haram nadhr, and now you're fulfilling that nadhr. Fasting on 11, 12, or 13 of Dhul Hijjah for those who are in Mina, not for us. So if you're in Mina, you cannot fast on Ayyam Tashriq, the bright days, 11, 12, and 13. Taking a vow of silence for a period of from Fajr till Maghrib. Fast of silence is haram in Islam. Remember, Quran talks about it, about Hazrat Maryam. Inni nazartu lirrahmani sawman lan ukalliman nasa insi. That I will not talk to anyone. So it was something which was okay in her period, in her time, but it's not allowed in our time. Intentionally fasting for 2 consecutive days without eating anything, that is also considered to be haram. So therefore, you have to eat something in between. You slept through it, for example. Weird sleeping hours. You slept 2 hours before breaking the fast, and then you woke up after Fajr next morning. And then you spend the entire day without eating anything, and then no, that's not allowed. It becomes haram. Because of course, it's going to be devastating, detrimental to your health. Fasting on the last day of Shaban with the niyat of Ramadan. So you got to be careful. You got to follow the instructions. That's why moon sighting is very important when it comes to Shaban, when it comes to Ramadan, when it comes to Eid, right? The last day of Shaban cannot be fasted with the niyat of first day of Ramadan. Similarly, last day of Ramadan or the first day of Shawwal, you cannot fast because it's haram. So what do you do? Last day of Shaban, if it's unsure, you fast with the niyat of shak, Yawm shak. You perform the fast with the niyat of Yawm shak. If it turns out to be that it was the first of Ramadan, then your fast is okay. And if it turns out to be that it was the 30th day of Shaban, it wasn't, then there's no haram upon you. You did not commit any sin by fasting on the fasting for Ramadan on the last day of Shaban. Mustaf fast performed by a child, which bothers the child's parents. So a child who says, no, I'm going to fast. Parents said, no, please don't. It's not wajib upon you. And then they insist. I guess parents have to insist to their children. It's the other way around. Go ahead and fast. Mustaf fast performed by a child after his or her parents forbade them. Mustaf fast of a wife who had been forbidden to fast by her husband. Fasting on Ashura is makruh, right? It's not haram. So, it's a fiqhi masala. That's why I put it under haram. But it is makruh. Why? Because this was the day Banu Umayyah celebrated on the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, and they marked it to be a day of celebration, and they marked it to celebrate by fasting on that day. Because fast is associated with their celebration of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, it is not haram for you to fast because it's not a day which is meant, it is makruh. That's why we do faqa on that day. We don't perform the fast. All right, Mustaf fast. There are a lot of Mustaf fasts. You can take a picture of this if you want to. I don't need to walk you through all of these. Each 3 days each month, every Thursday, Friday, birthday of the Prophet, Mab'ath, 27th of Rajab, 25th of the Dhul Qada, Yawm al-Arafah, for someone who does not fear that it will weaken them for the supplications, day of Ghadir, day of Mubahala, 1st, 3rd, and 7th of Muharram, and fasting the entire month of Rajab and Shaban, and the 6 days of Shawwal. Why 6 days of Shawwal? It's sort of bidding farewell to Ramadan, right? So you fasted for entire 30 days, and now you celebrated on the day of Eid, and now the month of Ramadan has departed. So what do? You walk along with the month for a few more days, and therefore fasting for 6 days in the month of Shawwal is recommended. All right. Actually, I can share the slides. We can put it on our social media or somewhere, right? Inshallah, we can share it. All right. Now we get to the ahkam, conditions for fasting. Why is obligatory of fasting and its validity? Sanity, aql, consciousness, being the age of religious obligation, bulugh. So you have to be sane and you have to be baligh. Now, when it comes to bulugh, there's a question that a lot of time people ask regarding, because girls become baligh at the age of 9. And sometimes for a 9-year-old, it's very difficult to fast. So what do? Well, Sharia is not going to go out and force anything onto them. They become 9 based on lunar years, not Gregorian calendar, right? So that's actually even earlier because you lose 11 days from the Gregorian calendar. She must observe her religious duties on the very first day of her 10th lunar year. But if the girl becomes baligh at the age of 9 and it's very difficult for her to perform these duties and she's unable to bear the fasting for the entire day because of hot or other significant difficult conditions, then she can just make up the qaza of the missed fast, but there's no kafara on her. So if you have children who are becoming baligh this year and you're encouraging them to fast, this is actually a perfect time because the fasts are not that long. It's only 10 hours maybe, right? But hypothetically, if the fasts were like 17, 18 hours, expect a 9-year-old, 10-year-old to fast, it's a little bit difficult. If they can't, that's okay. But they have to make up the qada. There's no kafara, there's no fidya, nothing that they have to give. They don't have to fast. This is something which normally is asked, so that's why I want to go through this. The third condition is the capability, tolerance, hardship, and security from harm. Meaning, fasting is not wajib if a person knows that it will cause significant illness. A lot of time people call us, Maulana, my son is saying I shouldn't fast because I'm diabetic, for example. I have heart condition, for example. I said, well, is your son a physician? He said, no. I said, get your physician's, just like you get a physician's note when you need it to prove it to somewhere that you missed this or you missed that. Ask your physician. If you don't know your own condition, your physician knows you better. Ask them, can I keep the fast, meaning not eat anything or drink anything for X amount of hours? If he says, give it a try for 1 or 2 days if you can, Bismillah. But if you think that it's unbearable for you, then don't. So it's always a case for you. You can start fasting, but if you start feeling weakness and you're unable to continue with it, you shouldn't. In fact, fasting for someone for whom it's unbearable and it's difficult and might cause other harms is haram. Right? Ramadan, we're talking about. That Ramadan fast it should have gone in that previous category of haram fast. We didn't have it in there. Criteria of harm, serious harm means anything that leads to death or damage of organs, bodily weakness, results in the inability to carry out your, essential activities. So therefore, if there's this serious harm, which comes from, of course, those who are patients of diabetes, those who are patients that have heart patients, and other commonly known diseases or illnesses that they may have.
For those people, it's like if they're able to make those up, they need to make those up or have a kafara or no?
There's no kafara on them, period. But if there's a possibility for them to fast in the future, they don't have to make up the qada because this was due to a genuine, illness that they had. So otherwise they'll have to make up for, let's say someone couldn't fast for 10 years because of diabetes. Now all of a sudden, they've gotten better and they're able to do so. Or for example, now the days are shorter and they're capable of doing so. So they don't have to make up the qada for the last 10 years. So there's no qada upon them. Those who are excused from fasting, elderly, advanced age, that itself is an illness and therefore they don't have to fast. A pregnant woman who's close to the time of delivery, a nursing woman who has already delivered a baby, an ill person is given a very ill person, it goes into other categories of it, but I just kept it as that. Hard labor workers, that is an important category. Those who work in these places where it's construction and it's hot summer days, especially this year, if you live in Australia, Ramadan is going to be coming in the summertime for them, right? Summertime for them. And if you're a construction worker, you have to stand outside and work outside. That itself not necessarily makes it okay for you to excuse or from fasting. But if there are these fear, harm, unbearable hardship due to extreme thirst, they may drink water to the extent necessary, but still remain in the state of as if they're fasting. You're not fasting, but you're living with the spirit of fast, just enough drink that you can survive throughout the day. But you don't, okay, I'm not fasting, so I'm going to have full lunch, I'm going to have everything. No. So you're still in the spirit of fast. A person who suffers from, I don't even know how to say this, polydipsia, excessive or abnormal thirst, right? So these are the 5 categories of people who are excused for fast. So if you fall in any of these categories, then you don't have to fast. There will come about a question about these 2 later on. I know some might have questions about it, but there will be a question later on about these 2 istifta coming up.
So do they have to cover up the fast later on though?
Yeah, as I said, question is coming up for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what is the responsible person? A woman in the later stage of pregnancy, or also the one who's nursing a child, with respect to the fast that she misses during the month of Ramadan. So she's required to perform the qada, those fasts that she's missed during the month of Ramadan, and pay fidya on top of that. Fidya is the 750 grams of popular food item, could be equivalent to about $5 roughly, maybe in some other countries less than that. But she is responsible to perform the qada.
So if we have, like, for whatever reason, I should say whatever reason, that you're not well and couldn't keep the fast last Ramadan, maybe 5, 10, whatever, what is the ruling for that? Is there, I know you have to cover up, but is there to pay fidya as well?
So, if, for example, someone who was traveling in the month of Ramadan, they didn't fast, right? This is a genuine excuse. Your duty is that you should make up the qada before the next Ramadan. If you didn't, there's no kafara, but along with the qada, you're going to pay fidya. That's it. Fidya is added on to the person who was negligent of not making up the qada until the next Ramadan arrived. Now the next Ramadan is upon you. Today is Friday. You have only 7 days remaining, but you have 10 qaza fast. There's no way you're making it up, right? You can only make up for the next 6, 7 days that you have in front of you. The 3 that you didn't make up, you should have made up throughout the year. Not only there's qaza, but also fidya on top of that. That's just a penalty. All right. G.
And what about like fidya should be done in the country where you are, or it can be?
Doesn't matter.
That's not
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Usually it is mentioned that it's better to give locally as regarding all of the zakat, right? Because this also falls under the category of zakat. Every type of zakat is preferable to give locally. But you can give outside as well, somewhere else, that's okay. It doesn't matter. In fact, you might even get off the hook by paying lesser. In Pakistan or in India, it might just be $1 or $2 for the fidya, right? Because it's 750 grams of food item, popular food item. So maybe in UK, it might be 10 pounds, right? In another country, it might be £1. Or in US, different places, different states. Right here, maybe $5. Maybe in California, it might be $10, right? So it depends on how much that 750 grams of food item is. But nowadays, this has become very easy. Many of the websites of the Maraji and as well as charitable organizations, they have a section on their websites where you can go ahead and directly pay the fidya.
Maulana,
Yes.
even the kafara of kafar muta'ammad,
Okay.
now they
It'll come up later on, though.
they made it easy.
Yeah.
The amount of 60 maskin, now they, in Najaf they make it easy. You can't pay if you are in all days.
Yeah.
You didn't fast, they make it easy.
Yeah. So, but you still have to give the kafara for it, right?
Yeah, kafar.
Ayatollah Sistani does not believe in jama'ul kafarat. So there are 3 kafaras, right? First is, this will be coming up later on actually. First kafara is to free a slave. We can't free a slave anymore. So it's already something which is you overlook. Second, to fast for 60 days. Third is to feed 60 people. Of course, there's some other maraja, if you follow another marja, they actually say, no, you have to do both. If you have broken the fast intentionally, on purpose, and that too with haram, for example, I'm just making it even worse, then you do jam between all of the kafarat. As I say, no, it doesn't matter how you broke it, what you did, whatever the case may be, there's only one kafara. That either you free a slave, which is of course not possible, emancipation of a slave anymore. Number two, fast for 60 days on the trot, or, for example, feed 60 people. So feeding 60 people nowadays in Najaf, as you mentioned, you pay $300 and they feed 60 people for $300. It's very simple, very cheap. I'll pull up a website at the end, the Office for Atul Sistani. Their website, I'll give you the link. On their website, they have a place where they have all of these dues. You can go ahead and easily submit and pay over there, and as well as other charitable organizations. So it's very easy nowadays. You pay on that website, nobody use Zimma. You don't have to worry about anything else. Now, you can't find people over here, right? For example, some of the masajid, they might take it. Our masjid doesn't take fidya or kafarat. We don't have, of course, we can, if someone says we can give it to these other organizations, that's what we're going to be doing. If you give it to us, we're going to go ahead and pay these other organizations. You might as well just do it yourself. Pay directly, and you get a receipt from them. One of the ahkam is the niyat. Of course, niyat is important. You cannot fast without the niyat. But of course, niyat does not mean that you have to literally utter it from your tongue, right? The fact that the month of Ramadan has begun, and the fact that you're going to be fasting, right away that niyat is there. But still, make a niyat. Fasting is a form of worship that must be performed with the niyat, fulfilling the divine command. So it is best, on the first night of the month of Ramadan, one makes the niyat that they will fast for the entire month. Just make the niyat on the first night. Because the second night you might forget, the third night you might forget, the fourth night you might forget, the fifth night you might remember, oh, I have to make the niyat. Just make the niyat, and inshallah, no harm, no foul. Niyat is wajib, must be made before the adhan of Fajr, unless there's a valid excuse. The reason there's so much emphasis made for fasting and the niyat regarding the fast is because sometimes you sleep through it, right? And then what do you do in this case? So then, of course, when you wake up and you haven't done anything which is one of the nullifiers of the fast, then you can still make the niyat at that time. So if one forgets the niyat for wajib fast due to forgetfulness, some other reason, as long as has not done anything, then well, there's the fast, or one may make his or her niyat until the time of dhuhr, but not beyond that for the wajib. For mustahab, you can make the niyat just moments before Maghrib. If you haven't eaten or done anything that breaks the fast, moments before Maghrib, might as well get sawab. I didn't eat anything. So just make the niyat that I offer, fast, mustahab fast, qurbatan lillah. You get the sawab. All right. Question to the marja taqlid. Istifta. Can a person who must perform a qada fast of Ramadan make another to fast? So you have qada from last Ramadan. Now you want to make another to fast as well. Then no, such a person cannot make another. They must first fulfill their qada. Similarly, you cannot make mustahab fast either, right? In fact, if you fasted with the intention of mustahab, it will not even count. It will actually be your qada of the wajib that you have upon you. See, that's the difference between salat and saum. I may have qaza salat, but I can still offer mustahab prayers, nafila prayers, mustahab prayers. But I have qada wajib fast, I cannot go ahead and offer mustahab fast. Things that invalidate the fast, you can go through these things. Eating and drinking is, of course, main. That's why attributing falsehood to Allah, Messenger, and Imams. That's why our scholars a lot of time refrain from saying Qala Rasulullah, Qala Imam al-Sadiq in the month of Ramadan, because it's possible the hadith may not be attributed to one of the Imams, and they don't want to falsely attribute that. All right, and the other things are there as well. So there are these 9 things that are mentioned that one must abstain from adhan of Fajr to Maghrib. Number one, most common is eating and drinking. Now, you may eat and drink by mistake, out of habit. You woke up, fourth day of Ramadan, out of habit, you went downstairs or upstairs, wherever, you opened the fridge, you took out, water bottle, and you just drank. Oh, it's Ramadan. What happens to your fast? Fast is okay or fast is over? Fast is okay. This was done as a lapse, as a mistake. So eating and drinking. Among the acts that invalidate fasting is intentionally. That's the key word over there. You ate unintentionally. Now you can't eat unintentionally a few times. Unintentionally is only once. You did it again? No. So if a person was fasting, eats, drinks by mistake, forgot they were fasting, it happens, especially in the first few days of Ramadan. It does happen. A lot of time people have raised this question. So there's no penalty upon them. Fast is in order. It is preferable for a person not to swallow phlegm and that has reached the mouth, although it is permissible for him to swallow. Sometimes it happens, it's disgusting, you want to throw it out anyway. But it's a large amount. Even if you were to swallow it, then it does not invalidate your fast. Similarly, it is permissible for him to swallow saliva that has gathered in the mouth, even in large quantities. Sometimes these shukuk, doubts start coming to the minds of the people. Now, question will come up about brushing the teeth. You can brush your teeth. It's only makruh to wet the toothbrush and put it in your mouth. Because it's makruh to put anything wet in your mouth. But rinsing your mouth with water, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't take an external object, wet it and put it in your mouth. That is makruh. But if you have to rinse your mouth, it's okay, you can rinse the mouth as long as nothing is going down the throat, right? So if you brush your teeth and you have to rinse your mouth, you rinsed it 3 times and you spit it out, now you can swallow, that's okay. You don't have to worry about it. There's some doubt some people have that, we're not going to brush because we can still taste the toothpaste, for example. The smell of it is still there. That's okay. As long as nothing physical is going down your throat, that's fine. Don't deprive yourself and don't, make others uncomfortable around you. Person may not break his or her fast because of weakness unless his state becomes truly unbearable. So, especially with the younger kids, right? They're fasting, it's wajib upon them. They started fasting. But when it becomes unbearable, that's okay. In the state of that they're not able to bear the difficulty, there's no kafara upon them, just a qada afterwards. I already mentioned that. Yes?
Question. If a person needs to take inhalable medicine, like asthmatics,
Yeah.
does that invalidate the fast?
Let's see. It'll come in the... So here, no, it does not, because it goes through the respiratory tract, right?
Even though it goes down the throat, it's still...
Yeah, it goes through the respiratory tract, so therefore it's okay. It would not be considered as a thick, dust or something of that sort. So use of nozzle spray facilitates breathing. It says if it goes down the respiratory tract and not the passage of food and drink, it does not invalidate the fast. But if it is going down the passage of food and drink, then it will. I guess that's the key word over there. I don't know, those things are made to go down the respiratory tract, I guess. It doesn't go down the food. Nutrition, this is only Ayatul Sistani. Nutrition given intravenously invalidate fast irrespective of whether or not it was absolutely necessary for the patient. Ayatul Sistani says in both cases, it does not invalidate fasting. Some Maraji use Ihtiyat Wajib. But Ayatul Sistani says, if someone goes to the hospital and says, no, I need some IV fluids, come on, bring it on, that's okay. As long as nothing is going down the throat, you can get that IV fluid. I mentioned that as well. Some Maraja say they have to pay all three kinds of penalties, right? But Ayatul Sistani says, no, only one penalty is all you have to pay. Of course, emancipating a slave is waived anyway, but however, in the view of Ayatul Sistani, when he says in our view, that's Ayatul Sistani, it is not obligatory to pay all three kinds of penalties for invalidating a fast during the month of Ramadan by committing a sin. Right? So some Maraji say if you commit a sin during the month of Ramadan by breaking the fast, which breaks the fast, invalidates the fast, all three kafarat must be paid. All right. Things that are makruh for one who is fasting. Performing any action that makes you weak. So this solves a lot of questions, right? People ask, can we have blood work? Sure, go for your blood work. LabCorp opens at 6:30, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. That's when your appointment is. Bismillah, go for it. I guess people do feel dizzy afterwards, or it does make you weak because blood is being drawn out of you, right? And that's why they tell you to drink a lot of fluids before and after, for example, getting blood work done. But it's makruh. You have to get your blood work done, you have to get your blood work done. You don't have to delay it, for example, because it's makruh. It's makruh. Smelling aromatic herbs or flowers is makruh. However, using perfumes or colognes is permissible. People have habit of smelling it. In the state of ihram, it's not allowed, right? Because it's considered to be tayyib, this is something which is sort of like a part of beautification and all that stuff, zinat. But here, it is okay. Wearing the clothes one is currently wearing, brushing one's teeth with a wet toothbrush, having your tooth pulled out. I don't know how you're going to get that done without anything going down your throat. Although they have the suction tube there, but nonetheless, there's a possibility something will go down. But yeah, if they are guaranteeing that nothing is going to go down, you can get this done. Because dentist appointments are not easy to come by. Using eye drops or kohol when the taste reaches the throat. So you put an eye drop, there's a possibility that you might be able to taste it in your throat. It's makruh, it's not haram. Using nose drops, if it doesn't know that it will reach the throat. If it does, because it's going from here right to the throat, then it's invalid. But when it's going from the eyes and you can feel the taste, it's okay. But from nose, because it's closer, and you didn't know, it's makruh only, fast is valid. But if it does reach your throat and you can feel it going down the throat, then of course the fast is invalid. So avoid nasal sprays. Use eye drops you can, but nasal sprays, avoid that, yes. Smelling aromatic herbs or flowers, I guess it goes down that category. It's not makruh. It's not makruh. No, it's not makruh. Only thing that they have talked about is this. This is only makruh. So you can smell the food. Miscellaneous rules. In the following conditions, one is neither required to perform a qada nor a kafara for a fast. Wow, that's a lucky one. The fast of a new Muslim missed prior to his or her conversion to Islam. Person converts to Islam at the age of 35. You give him a good news, mashallah, you've embraced Islam. The bad news, 20 years of fast are due on you. Bismillah. No. Someone who, due to old age, neither fasts during Ramadan nor performs the qada fast after Ramadan. However, fasting is possible but difficult. So there are two categories. One who's unable, that's one category. One who's capable, but it's difficult for them. So these are two different categories. The first category, there's no qada and there's no fidya. The second category, they add, this person should give fidya. So they're both 80 years old, right? One just cannot fast. One can with difficulty. So this is where Sharia differentiates between the two. If you can with difficulty, but you're not able to, you're not doing it, then get in the spirit of fasting by giving this fidya. The qada fast of mother and father, after we mentioned that before, after the death of one's father, it is wajib on the eldest son to go ahead and perform father's qada prayers and as well as his fast and as well as other ibadat. So it's not just limited to these two, right? And it is recommended precaution for him to do the same for his mother as well. Don't deprive your mother if she missed, for example, as well. But it's wajib for father. Can anyone else do it? If the eldest son doesn't do it, the second son says, I'll do it. Sure. Does it make up for the father's qaza? Of course. You can hire someone else to do it, for example. A daughter, can she do it? Of course. A daughter can do it. Anyone who does it on behalf of them, it'll be counted in their record. Yes?
How many days is that though? Is there like a certain, like how would I know like how many my father missed?
So if they left behind a will, and usually we recommend that there's Islamic part of the will which says, I have missed, for example, this many years of fast, for example. But if you don't know how many exactly, but you know for sure that they must have missed, whatever the bare minimum you can think of, you go ahead and make up that. Same thing for your own as well. You don't know how many you've missed. How am I going to do it? Like, am I continue fasting for all my life? No. Whatever bare minimum you think that this much I have definitely missed. Right? I don't know about 5 years, but 2 years of fast I've definitely missed. Right? So 60 fast, 30, 30, right? That I definitely missed. So you go ahead and make up the qada of those 60. So you always base your wajib qada on the bare minimum that you can firmly say that this is definitely is what I have missed. Yes.
So for missing siyam, only qada without kafara?
If there's a valid reason, yes. If you miss it for a valid reason, yes.
No, for not about, I started doing, for example, if I started doing siyam when I was in college. So for the 4 years gap, I should do just qada or qada.
What was the reason you missed them?
I wasn't religious.
Okay. So if this person, their duty is actually to make up the qada and give kafara. Because this is not an excuse. But if you think they will be rebellious when you give them the penalty of kafara, then just tell them that make up your qada. Because at least the qada part has to be made up. But if someone who realizes and is now duty bound and has fear of God, then they have to do both. They have to make up the qada and they also have to pay the kafara. But again, there's a possibility someone might just run away. So like, forget about it. I'm not even doing the qada anymore. Then, okay, sure, just at least do the qada. But both will be obligatory. Things that invalidate the fast, swallowing dust. At least in our part of the world, we don't have this issue. But in Arabia, if you've lived in that part of the world, in Dubai area, in those places, you have dust storms and all that stuff. So this is valid over there. Again, so I don't really know if we need to go through these because this is not really applicable to us. Things that invalidate one's fast, attributing false statements to Allah, Prophet, and Imam. So be careful when speaking falsely about the matters of this world and the hereafter, telling a lie concerning their statements or actions, communicating a lie by speaking, writing, texting, tweeting, pointing, or using any other mode of communication, right? This slide was made in 2014, so that's why you don't have those other modes of communication. But yeah, make sure that none of those things are done, otherwise it will be associated to you and it will invalidate your fast. And the last two are actually the exception. If one intends to tell the truth and the statement turns out to be a lie. Or reading someone else's point of view, right? Then, and if it was lie, then naqle kufr nabashad, as they say. All right, submerging one's entire head underwater. So if you are swimming during the month of Ramadan, you got to be mindful of that you do not completely submerge your head under the water. And then the rest of the masail regarding that. You just avoid swimming during the month. Or if you swim, just be careful. Just keep your head above the water. Vomiting, intentionally vomiting will invalidate the fast. If one vomits unintentionally, of course the fast is okay in any nullifier which is done unintentionally. Qada fast. Qada and kafara, the penalties of the missed fast. One who cannot perform his or her fast at the appointed time because of a lawful excuse must replace these missed fasts with qada fast. So, a lot of time there was an excuse for which someone was not able to do so, and therefore you go ahead and decide that genuine excuse, and because of that, person would go ahead and offer the qada, and there's no kafara on that. Kafara fast, the kafara for missed fast entails 3 options, as we mentioned before. I think this has come through third time. So you only have to feed the 60 needy people. I guess this is the easiest of the kafarat. So this is where qada is due but no kafara. Intentionally vomiting, remember, you do it intentionally and your fast is gone, but there's no kafara for it. Unintentionally fasting 1 or several days in the month of Ramadan in the state of janaba. So someone did not do ghusl janaba and they continued on fasting and then they later on realized it. So there's only qada, there's no kafara. Ramadan, one fails to determine either on his own or by inaccurate information from someone else that the day has started and one has done something that invalidates the fast. For example, if one drinks some water and later finds out that the day had already started. You were living somewhere in a cell in a prison or something, couldn't see the sunlight or whatever, and and there are no clocks around you either, and you were fasting, and you did not know, so you were relying on someone else's admission that the day has started. You can't keep up the timings because you're in a dungeon, you're in a cell, you're I don't know. That's the only thing that I can come up with. I don't know if there are any other examples of that. Fasts that are invalidated because one is traveling. And travel is okay. It's makruh, but it's okay. You can travel. You can even travel intentionally to not fast. A lot of time, in the past years, people have come up and they've asked, Maulana, my son has a soccer game. And, of course, soccer requires a lot of running and whatnot. So can they just not fast on Sunday? No, Sunday is what? It's still 1st of Ramadan, 2nd of Ramadan. It's the middle of Ramadan. They have to fast. But it'll be difficult, this and that. Okay, so the only way you can legitimately skip the fast is you travel after morning. When the morning, the Salatul Fajr, now you have done the niyat of fast. After the fasting period has begun, you travel to that distance where namaz becomes qasr. 14 miles, right, from your house, from your boundary, to a place where your salat becomes qasr. Go over there, eat something, come back home. Because your salat was qasr, your fast had become invalid. If you didn't eat anything and came back in the same way, your fast continues. But because you did one of the mufattarat and you came back, that day's fast is gone for a legitimate reason, which is traveling. And only thing that is due upon you is what? Qada, and no kafara. You can do that intentionally, right? That is the legitimate way. Or, for example, even, I'm not talking about kids' soccer games, even as adults, right? There's something important that you have to do, which requires, you have an exam, 10-hour exam, right? 8-hour exam, I don't know if those things still happen. You have a 10-hour long exam where you're going to be just sitting in front of the computer screen and you're going to be answering these questions, and it is in a timely manner and you cannot. So this is what you do. you cannot just begin the day without fasting. That is unintentionally fasting. That will require qada and kafara. But if you travel after the fast has begun and you come back home after having eaten something at that place, fast. There's no kafara upon you. Fasts that are invalid because of one's state of hayd and nifas. Out of ignorance, one performs an act that invalidates his or her fast. All right. So it's out of ignorance, not out of, not unintentional, right? Someone ate or did something continuously out of ignorance. Which one of condition which only required to give fidya, 750 grams of food to a needy person per missed fast. If due to illness one cannot fast, and this illness persists for several years, so you're not sick, you're not diabetic for 1 year or 2 years, you're diabetic for a long period of time. So if you're diabetic and you cannot fast, what do? You give fidya. Fidya is about $5, as I mentioned before. So $150 for 30 days of missed fast will be sufficient. I'll show you the website where you can pay this. Elderly person whom fasting, we mentioned that. 2 elderly, right? One who just cannot, one who can, but because of hardship does not. One has a medical condition that causes him or her to become thirsty. We talked about that as well. Khatam kar de? All right. And these are some of the ethics. Maybe I'll read 1 or 2 riwayat. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, "Kam min sa'imin laysa lahu min siyamihi illa al-ju' wal-dhama, wa kam min qa'imin laysa lahu min qiyamihi illa as-sahr wal-'ana." And I can't read after that. Habbatha nawmul akyas wa aftarihim. It said many people get nothing out of their fast but hunger and thirst. That's unfortunate. All we feel at the end of the day is hungry. All we feel at the end of the day is thirsty. Many people, many more, get nothing out of their prayers but exertion and sleepless nights. Wise and sagacious person are praiseworthy even if they do not fast and sleep during the nights. So it's better in that the person who's not fasting is better than you then in that regard. Meaning what? You should not just be feeling hungry and thirsty at the end of the day. There should be something more to this fast of yours. لو يعلم العبد ما في رمضان لود إن يكون رمضان السنة. If we only knew what's in Ramadan, then we would hope that the entire year was month of Ramadan. The entire year was the months of Ramadan. If only we knew the beauty in it. All right. More riwayat. Hafizu wahfizu al-sinatakum. This is from the khutbah of Rasulullah. Guard your tongue, close your eyes, that which is not permissible. And lastly, from the kalam of Janab Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha, she said, "Ma yasnu sa'im bisiyamihi idha lam yasun lisanuhu wa sam'uhu basaruhu wa jawarihu." What is the benefit of a person fasting if he cannot control his tongue, ears, eyes, and other body parts? So meaning what? Fast with everything, not just by abstention from things which are halal for you. No, fast with your tongue, fast with your eyes, fast with the ears, fast with your heart. We mentioned that in the khutbah of Jummah as well. Yes?
When it comes to fasting with the ears, so I work with coworkers that love to use foul language every day. Every word is foul language. At that point,
So it's similar to how, when you go to a restaurant where they're playing music, right? Listening to music is haram, but you go into a restaurant to do what? Listen to music or eat? You go in there to eat, so it's permissible for you to sit in that restaurant. Similarly, it's your work, and yeah, will it have a negative impact on you? Absolutely. Something negative is constantly being said to you, and you're hearing that is going in your mind. You're in a bad environment, so it'll have its negative impacts on you. But is it haram? No, it's not haram. You know how many times people who are in that environment, they themselves start cursing and whatnot, right? They themselves develop the habit of using swear words. There's another hukum regarding frequent traveler. Those who are frequent travelers, those who are kathiru safar, right? That means these people who travel, their profession is to travel, like the pilots, like the train, bus drivers, taxi drivers, for example. Or sometimes your work demands you travel. For example, you work in another city, you live over here, for example, with your family. There are many people who do that. They work in another state and their family lives here. So they come here for like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then they go back to the other city for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, for example. I did that back in 2009 as well. 2009, 10, and 11, I was living half and half, living in Boston, 3 days there, 4 days here. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was in Boston. Part of Sunday, I was there, and then I'll come back over here. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was in New Jersey. I did that for about 2 years before finally settling down. But if you do that, you become what? Frequent traveler. Or another definition of frequent traveler is someone, according to Atlas Sistani, if you travel 3 times a week to a destination where your namaz, salat is qasr, right? So for example, you go to a place which is 20 miles away from your house or from your boundary of your house, especially if you live in state of New Jersey or other smaller states. But if you live in mega cities like New York City, if you live in Chicago, if you live in LA or Houston, you might go 30, 40 miles one direction and come back 30, 40 miles, but your fast is still intact because you're in Bilad Kabir. You're in a large city because this is entire one city. But because we live in a state where there are smaller cities, we count 14 miles from the boundary of our city. So if you travel 3 days a week and totaling 10 days a month, sometimes 9 days a month and then 11 the next month, sometime 8, the next 12, sometime 10, and this is how it goes on. From 6 months to a year, you become what is called Kathirus Safar, frequent traveler. What is your duty when you Kathirus Safar? Kathirus Safar will fast wherever they go for however long they go. They will pray full wherever they go for however long they go. So for example, you go to Ziyarat for 5 days, you're in Iraq for 5 days, you're going to be fasting there. You're going to be praying full. It's not like you have a choice. You're now Kathirus Safar. So sometimes being Kathirus Safar is actually beneficial, but those who are Kathirus Safar, they are, how do we come out of Kathirus Safar, right? Yes?
So if you only go to your office like once or twice a week,
Then it does not suffice.
But then if it's more than 20 miles, then you can't fast.
You cannot fast. You cannot fast unless you go after Dhuhr.
So what category would that be then?
You got to go after Dhuhr. If you want to.
Be there all day. What if the days that you go there you have to be there?
Well, then you cannot fast. You have to make up the qada. Yeah. You'll have to make up the qada. You have to go, you have to go. But because it's not something which is regular, and it's not something which is, for example, 3 days a week at least, 10 days a month, and it's not going. Sometimes people do travel, but they're only going to be traveling for the next 3 months. Heavily. Do they become Kathirus Safar? No. This has to expand to almost a year.
Even if it's like your regular work office?
Yeah. There's only one category according to Atlas Sistani. Yes?
So for me, I travel 33 miles. I'm required to be in the office 4 days a week. So for that, I'm okay.
You're Kathirus Safar, yeah. You're Kathirus Safar. Even outside of Ramadan, you should be praying full everywhere you go. Even if you go there for 1 day, you should be praying full.
This should be for 12 months.
Yes.
If I teach 12 months for 9 months.
Yeah. I mean, that's what is understood. For a teacher, for those who are going to be offered 2 months, for example, that's okay. It is 60 days in the calendar year, spanning on 60 days. Yeah. 10 days a month, right? So 60 days, 6 months. But this is a normal routine. Usually we calculate things by year. You're working for an entire year. So that's why it is mentioned a year. But you can complete these 60 days in 6 months.
Okay, if it is 10 days a month, then it should be 120 a year.
No, that's what I meant. It could be more. If it's more than 60, that's okay. It should not be less than 60. Yeah, that's what it means. So it could be more, but if it's like 48 days, for example, 58 days, for example, if it's coming short. There's a whole chart of it, but just to make life easy, 10 days a month for 6 months, and of course for the entire year, and this continues for the next year as well. Then there are different categories of it. But all in all, if you are a frequent traveler, then you'll be fasting and you'll be praying full, inshallah. All right, that concludes our presentation. Aloud Nare Salawat. Let me share that website with you quickly, and let me show you the categories that are there. Right here, if you go to the website of Ayatul Sistani, imam-us.org, under charities and dues, you will see all the categories. You got sadaqah, homes, fidya, kafara, nadhr, zakah, zakatul fitra, raddul madalim, and other general donations. So you come over here, you say, let's say you want to pay fidya this year. Many people would want to do that. You come over here, and you click on donation, and it's $5 according to them. You add for 30 days, and that's it, simple as that. You are Bari'ud Dhimma. You can now go ahead and pay. Made it easy. All right. Thank you very much for paying attention. Inshallah. Happy Ramadan. Ramadan Kareem to all.